The rain had turned the alley into a river of filth and shadows. My sneakers splashed through puddles I didn't want to think about as I took my usual shortcut home from the hospital. It was past midnight, and exhaustion pulled at every muscle in my body. 20 hours of rounds, 3 emergency surgeries I had assisted with, and a mountain of textbooks waiting at home. This was my life now. Medical school didn't leave room for much else. I almost didn't see him. Almost walked right past the dark shape crumpled between two dumpsters. But something made me stop. Maybe it was the glint of expensive fabric catching the dim streetlight. Maybe it was the way his hand was pressed against his side, fingers dark with blood. Maybe it was just instinct, the thing every doctor learns to recognize. Someone dying. I dropped to my knees beside him without thinking. His eyes opened, and even in the darkness I could see they were startling. Deep green, sharp with intelligence despite the pain clouding them. He tried to speak, but only a wet gurgle came out. Blood on his lips. Internal bleeding, my training whispered. Punctured lung, maybe? Liver damage. He had minutes, not hours. Don't try to talk, I said, my hands already moving over his body, assessing damage. I'm a medical student. I'm going to help you. His hand shot out, grabbing my wrist with surprising strength. His eyes were wide, urgent, trying to tell me something. Run, maybe. Leave him. Save myself. But I had taken an oath. Or I would, soon enough. The words didn't matter as much as the promise behind them. I didn't leave people to die in alleys. I pulled out my phone to call for an ambulance, but his grip tightened. His head moved slightly. A shake. No. I stared at him, understanding dawning cold and clear. He didn't want an ambulance, didn't want police, didn't want questions. Which meant whatever had put him here was something he couldn't explain to authorities. Something illegal. Something dangerous. I should have called anyway. Should have let the professionals handle this. But something in his eyes stopped me. Desperation mixed with dignity. A man who had faced death before and wasn't afraid of it, but didn't want to surrender either. You're going to bleed out if I don't get you help, I said. His grip loosened slightly. He managed 2 words, barely a whisper. Trust you. Those words changed everything. Changed my life in ways I couldn't possibly understand yet. I made a decision in that moment that defied every logical thought in my brain. Fine, I said. But we have to move. My apartment is 6 blocks from here. Can you walk? He tried to sit up and nearly passed out from the effort. His face went gray. I could see the calculation in his eyes, the understanding that he couldn't make it 6 blocks, could barely make it 6 feet. Then we do this the hard way, I said. I was small, barely 5'3", and he was tall, broad-shouldered, built like someone who spent time in gyms or doing physical work. But adrenaline is a powerful thing. I got my shoulder under his arm and hauled him up with strength I didn't know I had. He made a sound of pain that cut through me, but he stayed conscious, stayed moving. We made it half a block before I thought we would both collapse. He was trying to carry his own weight, but each step left drops of blood on the sidewalk behind us. Dark evidence of our passage. Anyone following would find us easily. Keep going, I gasped, more to myself than to him. Just keep going. His breathing was harsh against my ear, labored and wet. The lung for sure. Maybe both lungs. How he was still conscious was a miracle. 2 blocks. 3. My muscles screamed. His weight grew heavier with each step as his strength failed. We passed a late-night diner with steamed windows. No one inside looked out. The city had taught people not to see things, not to get involved. 4 blocks. His legs gave out completely. We went down hard, my knees cracking against concrete. He made no sound, which scared me more than screaming would have. Stay with me, I said, patting his face harder than was gentle. His eyes flickered open. Unfocused now. Stay with me. We're almost there. I don't know how I got him up again. Don't know how I dragged him the last 2 blocks. But somehow we made it to my building. Up 3 flights of stairs that felt like climbing a mountain. Through my door into the tiny apartment I could barely afford on my student loans. I lowered him onto my bed, the only flat surface big enough, and immediately my white sheets bloomed red. I had a medical kit. Every student did. Basic supplies for studying, for practice. Not enough for this. Not nearly enough. But it would have to do. I cut away his shirt with scissors, revealing a torso that was all muscle and scars, old injuries layered under new ones. This man had been hurt before, many times, but the fresh wound was what mattered now. A stab wound, deep and precise, just below his ribs, angled up. Someone had known exactly where to strike. I worked fast, cleaning, assessing, stopping the bleeding with pressure and gauze. His breathing was definitely compromised. The lung. I needed to relieve the pressure or he would suffocate. A needle decompression. I had practiced on dummies. Never on a real person. Never in my tiny apartment with inadequate supplies and shaking hands, but I didn't have a choice. I found the spot. Second intercostal space, mid-clavicular line. The words from textbooks echoed in my head. I positioned the needle. His hand caught my wrist again. His eyes were open, clear for just a moment. "Do it," he said. His voice was stronger than it should have been. "I trust you." So I did. I pushed the needle through skin and muscle and into his chest cavity. There was a hiss of air escaping, pressure releasing. His breathing immediately eased. The gray tint to his skin faded slightly. I spent the next 4 hours working on him. Stitching the stab wound with thread meant for practice. Monitoring his vitals with a blood pressure cuff and a stethoscope. Pumping him full of antibiotics I had meant for a research project. It was crude, makeshift. Probably illegal in a dozen different ways. But it worked. As dawn light started filtering through my window, I finally let myself sit down. Let myself feel the exhaustion and fear I had been holding back. He was sleeping. Real sleep now, not unconsciousness. His breathing was steady. His color better. He would live. Against all odds, this stranger would live. I sat in my desk chair and watched him, trying to understand what I had done, who I had saved. His face was handsome in a hard way. Sharp cheekbones, a strong jaw, a nose that had been broken at least once. Even in sleep, he didn't look peaceful. He looked like a man used to violence, used to danger. His clothes were expensive, custom-tailored. His watch, which I had removed to check his pulse, was worth more than my entire year's tuition. His hands were scarred but manicured, contradictions everywhere. Rich but bleeding in an alley, dangerous but trusting, dying but fighting. "Who are you?" I whispered to his sleeping form. "What have I gotten myself into?" I must have fallen asleep in the chair because the next thing I knew, sunlight was streaming through the windows and someone was watching me. I jerked awake to find him sitting up in my bed, alert despite everything he had been through. His green eyes were fixed on me with an intensity that made my breath catch. "You saved my life," he said. His voice was rough but strong. "Thank you." I stood up quickly, putting distance between us. Professionalism. I needed to maintain professionalism. "You were stabbed," I said. "The wound is closed, but you need real medical attention. A hospital. Real doctors. I'm just a student." His expression didn't change. "No hospitals. No doctors. You did everything necessary. I'll heal." "That's not how this works," I said, frustrated. "You could have internal injuries I can't see, infections, complications. You need scans, blood work, monitoring." "I'll take my chances," he said. Then, with visible effort, he swung his legs over the side of the bed. He shouldn't have been able to move at all, should have been weak, disoriented, in pain. But he stood up with only a slight wince, testing his weight. "What are you?" I asked. "Some kind of superhero?" He smiled. It transformed his hard face into something almost kind. Just someone with a high pain tolerance and excellent survival instincts. He looked around my apartment, taking in the textbooks scattered everywhere, the skeleton model in the corner, the walls covered in anatomy posters. "Medical school," he said. It wasn't a question. "NYU," I confirmed. "Third year." He nodded slowly. "What's your name?" I hesitated. Names were dangerous. Names made this real. But he had trusted me with his life. The least I could do was offer mine. "Kate," I said. "Kate Morrison." "Kate," he repeated, like he was committing it to memory. "I'm Daniel Cross." The name meant nothing to me. "Should it?" I asked. His smile widened slightly. "No. That's refreshing." He moved toward the door, still testing his body, and I noticed he favored his left side, protecting the injury even though he was trying to hide it. "You need to rest," I said. "At least another day. Let the stitches set. Let your body start healing." "I'll rest at home," he said. "But I won't forget this. What you did. The risk you took." "I didn't do it for gratitude," I said. "I did it because you were dying." "Even so," he said. "You saved me. That creates a debt." "I don't want anything from you," I said quickly. "Just forget this happened. Forget you ever met me." Something flickered in his eyes. Amusement, maybe. Or respect. "I don't think I could forget you if I tried. But I'll respect your wishes. You won't see me again." He left then, walking out of my apartment and my life with nothing but the clothes on his back and stitches holding him together. I stood in my doorway and watched him disappear down the stairs, moving with a grace that shouldn't have been possible for someone who had nearly died hours ago. When he was gone, I closed the door and leaned against it, my heart pounding. What had I done? Who had I saved? But I pushed the questions away. I had rounds in 3 hours, a test next week. A life that didn't have room for mysteries or dangerous strangers. I stripped my bed, threw away the blood-stained sheets, cleaned every surface until no trace of him remained. Then I showered, dressed, grabbed my bag and headed to the hospital. Back to my real life. My normal life. Except nothing felt normal anymore. I kept seeing his green eyes, kept hearing his voice. "Trust you." I didn't tell anyone what had happened. Who would I tell? My roommate who was doing rotations in Boston? My study group who barely had time to sleep, let alone listen to wild stories? My professors who would have reported me for practicing medicine without a license? No, this was my secret. My burden. Days passed, then a week. I threw myself into my studies, trying to forget the stranger named Daniel Cross, trying to convince myself it had been a dream. But my hands remembered the feel of his blood. My ears remembered the hiss of air escaping his punctured lung. My heart remembered the way he had looked at me, like I was something precious, something worth remembering. 10 days after that night in the alley, I came home from an exhausting shift to find my street blocked. Black SUVs lined both sides, easily 100 of them. Expensive vehicles with tinted windows and an air of menace that made pedestrians cross to the other side. My stomach dropped. Something was very wrong. I approached my building cautiously, keeping my head down, trying to look like I belonged anywhere else. But before I could slip past, men in dark suits emerged from the vehicles, surrounding me in a circle that was polite but unmistakably confining. "Miss Morrison," one of them said. His voice was respectful but firm. "Would you please come with us?" "Who are you?" I asked, though I already knew, already understood. They were his, Daniel's. "Mr. Cross would like to see you," the man said. "It's not a request." Terror and anger warred inside me. He had promised, had said I would never see him again. But here were his people, his soldiers, making it clear I didn't have a choice. Fine, I said, lifting my chin. Take me to him. They escorted me to the largest SUV in the center of the fleet. The door opened and I climbed inside, my heart hammering. The interior was all leather and luxury, and sitting across from me, looking completely healed and devastatingly handsome in an expensive suit, was Daniel Cross. You said I wouldn't see you again? I said without preamble. He smiled. That apologetic, almost kind smile. I said you wouldn't see me. I never promised I wouldn't see you. That's splitting hairs, I snapped. He leaned forward slightly. Kate, I owe you my life. Did you really think I would just forget about you? Yes, I said. That was the plan. His expression grew serious. I needed to make sure you were safe. That helping me didn't put a target on your back. These past 10 days, I've had people watching you, making sure no one connected you to that night. My blood ran cold. You've been watching me? Every moment, he confirmed without shame. Your routine is impressive, by the way. Hospital at 6, rounds until 2, study group at 3, library until 8, home by 9. You eat lunch at the same cart every day. That vegetable wrap place on 42nd. You take the same route home. Walk through the same alley. His eyes held mine, that alley where we met. Anger flooded through me, burning away the fear. You have no right to spy on me. You're right, he said simply. I don't. But I did it anyway. Because you saved my life, and in my world, that means you're under my protection whether you want it or not. I don't want your protection, I said. I want you to leave me alone. His jaw tightened. I can't do that. Why not? Because the people who put that knife in me are still out there, he said. And they're looking for whoever saved me. They've been asking questions, showing your picture around. It's only a matter of time before they find you. The words hit me like a physical blow. My picture. They had my picture. How? From security cameras near the alley, he said, reading my expression. Grainy footage of a woman helping a man. They don't have your name yet. But they will. Unless I stop them. His eyes were intense. Let me protect you, Kate. Let me keep you safe until this is over. And if I say no, then I'll protect you anyway, he said. But it will be easier if you cooperate, if you let me move you somewhere secure until the threat is eliminated. I felt trapped. Caught in a web I had walked into willingly when I stopped to help a dying man. This is insane, I said. I have school, responsibilities, a life. I understand, he said. And I'll make sure you can continue all of it. But from somewhere safe, with security, with people watching over you. For how long? Until it's done, he said. Could be days. Could be weeks. His expression hardened. But I promise you it will end. I don't even know who you are, I said. Not really. What you do. Why someone wanted you dead. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I run an organization. We deal in things that exist in the gray areas of the law. I have enemies because of this. Rivals who would do anything to take what's mine. The man who stabbed me was sent by one of these rivals. And if they find out you saved me, they'll use you to get to me. You're a criminal, I said flatly. He didn't flinch. Yes? I should have left you in that alley. You should have, he agreed. But you didn't. And now we're both living with the consequences. I wanted to hate him, wanted to demand he let me go, that he leave me to my normal life. But the truth was settling over me like a weight. My life wasn't normal anymore. The moment I had helped him, I had stepped into his world, and there was no stepping back. Fine, I said. I'll go to your safe house or wherever. But I need access to my textbooks. I have exams coming up. Done, he said immediately. What else? My study group meets twice a week. I need to be there. I'll arrange secure video conferencing, he said. What else? I need you to promise me something, I said. His eyebrow raised. Promise that you'll tell me the truth from now on. No more secrets. No more watching me without my knowledge. If I'm in danger, I deserve to know everything. He studied me for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Agreed. Full transparency. And when this is over, I said, you let me go back to my life. You disappear again. For real this time. His expression was unreadable. If that's what you want, he said. The way he said it made my stomach flutter. Like he already knew it wouldn't be what I wanted. Like he could see a future I couldn't yet imagine. The SUV started moving, part of the massive convoy. We drove through the city, leaving my neighborhood behind. I watched through tinted windows as familiar streets gave way to unfamiliar ones, heading toward whatever new chapter of my life this had become. Tell me about the man who stabbed you, I said. Why did he want you dead? Daniel's expression darkened. His name is Victor Kane. He runs a rival organization. We've been at war for control of shipping routes, distribution networks, territory, things that mean money and power. So this is about business, I said. He nodded. It's always about business in my world. People kill for profit, for advantage. Personal vendettas are rare. This is just strategy. Just strategy, I repeated. You almost died for strategy. He smiled without humor. Welcome to my reality. We drove for another 20 minutes before pulling up to a building in a part of the city I didn't recognize. Upscale, modern, expensive. The kind of place that didn't ask questions about tenants who paid in cash. The convoy stopped, and Daniel's door opened immediately. He stepped out, moving with confidence despite his recent injury. I followed, trying not to feel overwhelmed by the number of armed men surrounding us. We're going to the penthouse, Daniel said as we entered the building. Top floor. Complete security. You'll be safe there. The elevator ride was silent. I was acutely aware of him standing beside me. The scent of his cologne. The way he carried himself with absolute certainty. He had nearly died in my arms 10 days ago. Now he looked invincible. The penthouse was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Modern furniture in shades of gray and black. Art that probably cost more than I would make in a lifetime. It was beautiful and cold. Like a magazine spread instead of a home. Your room is this way, Daniel said, leading me down a hallway. He opened a door to reveal a bedroom that was larger than my entire apartment. King-sized bed, private bathroom, a desk by the window. I've had your textbooks and notes brought from your apartment, he said. Everything you need to keep up with your studies. I stared at him. You went into my apartment? With your permission, which I'm retroactively asking for now, he said. His tone suggested he found his own audacity amusing. I should have been angry, but I was too tired, too overwhelmed. Thank you, I said instead. He nodded. There are clothes in the closet. All your size. Toiletries in the bathroom. If you need anything else, there's a phone on the nightstand. Dial 0 and someone will help you. Where will you be? I asked. Working, he said, ending this threat so you can go back to your life. He turned to leave, then paused. Kate, he said. Yes? Thank you again. For saving me. For trusting me now. I didn't answer, didn't know what to say. He left, closing the door softly behind him. I sat on the bed, my mind spinning. 12 hours ago, I had been a normal medical student. Now I was in a penthouse, under the protection of a criminal, caught in a war I didn't understand. How had my life become this? I spent the evening unpacking the few belongings that had been brought from my apartment. My textbooks felt like anchors to my real life, proof that I was still Kate Morrison, still on track to become a doctor, still the person I had always planned to be. I studied until my eyes burned, trying to focus on anatomy and physiology instead of the armed guards outside my door, trying not to think about Daniel and the way he looked at me, like I was something rare, something valuable. Around midnight, there was a knock. "Come in," I called, expecting a guard, but it was Daniel who entered carrying a tray. "I thought you might be hungry," he said. "You missed dinner." I hadn't even noticed. Time had slipped away while I studied. He set the tray on the desk. Grilled chicken, vegetables, rice. Simple, but well prepared. "I didn't know what you liked," he admitted. "So I guessed." "This is perfect," I said. "Thank you." He lingered in the doorway, watching me. "You don't have to stay here," I said. "In the room, I mean." "I know you have work." "I do," he confirmed, "but I wanted to check on you. Make sure you have everything you need." "I'm fine," I said. His eyes held mine. "Are you?" "Really?" I set down my fork. "Honestly, I'm terrified. I'm in a situation I don't understand with people I don't know. My whole life has been turned upside down. And I keep wondering if I made a terrible mistake stopping to help you." His expression tightened. "You didn't make a mistake. You saved a life. That's what doctors do." "You're not a doctor yet," I pointed out. "And you're not a patient. You're something else entirely." "What am I?" he asked, moving into the room. "I don't know," I admitted. "That's part of what scares me." He sat in the chair across from my bed, maintaining distance. "Then let me tell you, I'm 32 years old. I've run my organization for 8 years since my father died. I'm good at what I do, which is why people want me dead. I have money, power, influence, but I don't have many things I care about. Until 10 days ago, when a medical student with kind eyes and steady hands gave me a reason to survive. My breath caught. "Daniel, don't," he said. "I know this is complicated. I know you didn't ask for any of this, but I need you to understand something. You're not just someone I'm protecting out of obligation. You're someone who matters to me, and I will do whatever it takes to keep you safe." The intensity in his voice made my heart race. This was dangerous. More dangerous than the men hunting me. Because the way he was looking at me made me want things I shouldn't want. Made me forget all the reasons this was wrong. "I should go," he said, standing abruptly. "Let you rest. But if you need anything, I'm just down the hall." He left before I could respond. I sat there in the expensive silence of the penthouse, my dinner forgotten. What was happening to me? Why did my heart beat faster when he was near? Why did I feel safer with a criminal than I had ever felt in my normal life? Days blended together in the penthouse. I maintained my routine as best I could. Video calls with my study group, online lectures, hours of reading and practice. Daniel checked on me regularly. Brief visits that somehow became longer. Conversations that started about security and ended about everything else. He told me about growing up in his world, the violence he had seen, the choices he had made. I told him about losing my mother to cancer when I was 12, about deciding to become a doctor so I could save others, about the crushing weight of medical school debt and the fear that I would never be good enough. We were from completely different worlds, but somehow in those quiet conversations, we found common ground, found understanding. A week passed, then 2. Daniel's people were working to eliminate the threat, but Victor Kane was clever, careful. He moved his pieces slowly, methodically, waiting for Daniel to make a mistake. I should have been eager to leave, to get back to my real life. But the truth was settling over me like morning light. I didn't want to leave, didn't want to go back to a life that no longer felt like mine, because somewhere between saving his life and living under his protection, I had fallen for Daniel Cross. It happened in small moments, The way he brought me coffee in the morning. The way he listened when I talked about my studies. The way his eyes softened when he looked at me. The way he touched my hand when explaining something. Brief contact that burned. One night, 3 weeks into my stay, I found him on the balcony. He was staring out at the city lights, his expression troubled. "Couldn't sleep?" I asked, stepping outside. He turned, surprised. "I didn't hear you." "Sorry," I said. "I can go." "No," he said quickly. "Stay, please." I moved to stand beside him at the railing. "What's wrong?" "Nothing," he said. Then, after a pause, "Everything." "Tell me," I said. He looked at me, and in the moonlight his eyes were vulnerable. "I'm used to making hard decisions, used to doing what needs to be done without hesitation. But with you, everything is complicated. Every choice I make affects you. Every risk I take puts you in danger. And I find myself paralyzed by the possibility of losing you." "You're not going to lose me," I said softly. "You don't know that," he said. "In my world, people lose what they care about all the time. It's the price of power." "Then maybe you should care about fewer things," I said. He laughed, sharp and bitter. "That's what I've always done. Until you." His hand came up to cup my cheek. "You made me want things I've never wanted. Made me imagine a life that's different from the one I've built." "What kind of life?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "One where I wake up next to you every morning," he said. "Where I come home to you every night. Where I'm not just Daniel Cross the criminal, but Daniel Cross the man you chose." My heart was pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. "Daniel?" I began, but he stopped me with a finger against my lips. "Don't say anything yet," he said. "Not until this is over. Not until you're free to make choices that aren't influenced by fear or obligation. I want you to choose me because you want to, not because circumstances forced us together." "But what if I've already chosen?" I asked. His eyes searched mine. "Have you?" I didn't answer with words. Instead, I rose on my toes and kissed him. It was soft at first, tentative, testing. But then his arms came around me and the gentleness evaporated. He kissed me like I was air and he had been drowning, like I was the only real thing in a world of shadows. We broke apart eventually, both breathing hard. His forehead rested against mine. "This complicates everything," he murmured. "I know," I said. "Do you care?" "Not even a little." He smiled, that real smile that transformed his face. "Then we're both in trouble." The next morning, everything changed. I woke to the sound of urgent voices, shouting in the hallway. I threw on a robe and opened my door to find the penthouse in chaos. Guards moving with purpose, weapons being checked. Daniel in the center of it all, giving orders with cold precision. "What's happening?" I asked. He turned and his expression was grim. "Victor made his move. He's attacking multiple locations at once, trying to draw me out." "Are you leaving?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "I have to," he said. "This ends tonight, one way or another." Fear closed around my throat. "What if something happens to you?" His expression softened. "I'll come back. I promise." "How can you promise that?" "Because I have something to come back to now," he said. His hand cupped my face. "You. Stay here. Don't leave this penthouse no matter what you hear. My people will protect you." "And Daniel?" I said, catching his hand. "Come back to me." He kissed me, hard and fast, a promise sealed without words. Then he was gone. The penthouse fell silent except for the guards stationed at every entrance. I tried to study, tried to distract myself, but all I could think about was Daniel walking into danger, maybe dying. All because he had stopped to trust a medical student in an alley. Hours passed. The sun set. Night fell. Still no word. The guards wouldn't tell me anything, just that the situation was ongoing. I paced my room like a caged animal, imagining worst-case scenarios, seeing Daniel bleeding again. But this time, I wasn't there to save him. Around midnight, I heard the elevator. My heart leapt. I ran to the living room just as Daniel emerged. He was alive, whole, but exhausted in a way that went beyond physical, blood on his clothes that wasn't his, the weight of violence in his eyes. I didn't ask questions, just went to him. He pulled me close, burying his face in my hair. "It's done," he said. His voice was rough. "Victor is dead. His organization is scattered. The threat is over." Which meant I was free to go. Free to return to my normal life. But I didn't move. Didn't pull away. "I'm not going anywhere," I said. His arms tightened around me. "You should," he said. "You deserve better than this. Better than me." I pulled back to look at him. "What I deserve is to choose my own life. And I choose this. I choose you." "Even knowing what I am?" he asked. "What I do?" "Even knowing," I confirmed. "Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe this is the worst decision I'll ever make. But I saved your life for a reason. And I'm not walking away from you now." Something broke in his expression. The careful control he always maintained shattered. He kissed me with desperation and relief, and something that felt like love. We stumbled toward his room, shedding clothes and inhibitions. And for the first time since that night in the alley, I felt completely certain. This was where I belonged. With him. In his world. Building something new from the ashes of the lives we had led before. Afterward, lying tangled together in his bed, he said, "I love you." The words were simple, honest, terrifying. "I love you too," I said, "even though it's insane." "Especially because it's insane," he said. His finger traced patterns on my shoulder. "What happens now?" I asked. "Now you finish medical school," he said. "Become the doctor you were always meant to be. And I'll be there supporting you, protecting you, loving you." "And your work?" I asked. "I'm making changes," he said, "transitioning to legitimate businesses. It won't happen overnight, but I'm working toward a life that doesn't require looking over my shoulder. Working toward a future with you." "That sounds like a lot of work," I said. "It will be," he agreed. "But you saved my life, made me want to be worth saving. The least I can do is build something worthy of you." We lay in comfortable silence for a while. Then I said, "My study group is going to think I'm insane when I tell them about this." "You're not going to tell them," he said, amusement in his voice. "Not until you're sure they won't have me arrested." "Fair point," I said. "But eventually I'll have to explain where I've been, why I suddenly have security following me everywhere." "Tell them you're dating someone in private security," he suggested. "It's not entirely untrue." I laughed, the absurdity of my life hitting me fully. A month ago, I was a normal medical student. Now I'm in love with a criminal who's going legitimate. "Who thinks like this?" "You do," he said. "Apparently, I do too." His expression grew serious. "Do you regret it? Saving me? Choosing this life?" I thought about it honestly, about everything I had risked, everything that had changed. Then I looked at him, at the man who had trusted me with his life, who now trusted me with his heart. "No," I said. "I don't regret it at all." The next weeks were an adjustment. I moved my things into the penthouse officially, finished my semester remotely with arrangements made through the university. Daniel's lawyers worked magic making everything legitimate. I had security, but subtle. Guards who kept their distance. I continued my studies, continued working toward my degree, but now I had Daniel beside me, supporting me, challenging me, making me laugh when the stress became too much. He was working to legitimize his business. It was slow, complicated. Some of his people resisted. But he was determined, building something clean, something that wouldn't put me in danger, something that wouldn't make me choose between my career and him. 6 months after that night in the alley, I passed my boards. Officially became a doctor. The ceremony was small. My father attended, confused, but happy. My study group was there, still not entirely sure how I had ended up dating a mysterious security contractor. And Daniel was there, in the back row, watching with pride that made my chest ache. After we celebrated at the penthouse, just the two of us, champagne and takeout and the city lights spread below us like stars. "You did it," he said, pulling me close. "Dr. Morrison, I like the sound of that." "So do I said, though I'm thinking I might change my last name eventually. His eyes widened. "Are you?" "Maybe," I said, smiling. "If someone asks." "Is someone going to ask?" He pulled out a box. Small, velvet, expensive. Opened it to reveal a ring that took my breath away. "I'm asking now," he said. "Kate Morrison, will you marry me? Will you let me spend my life proving I'm worth the risk you took?" "Yes," I said without hesitation. "Yes to all of it." He slipped the ring on my finger. Perfect fit. Like everything between us. "We're going to have an interesting life," he said. "Probably," I agreed. "Medical crises and business deals and security concerns. Not exactly the fairy tale." "Better than a fairy tale," I said. "Because it's real. Because we chose it." He kissed me then, slow and deep. A promise of all the days ahead, all the moments we would share, the life we would build together. And as I stood there in his arms, I thought about that night in the alley, about the decision to stop, to help, to risk everything for a stranger. Some people would say I was foolish, that I should have walked away, should have chosen the safe, predictable path. But I learned something that night, something that would shape the rest of my life. Sometimes the best decisions are the ones that make no logical sense, the ones that defy reason and caution, the ones that come from the heart instead of the head. I saved Daniel Cross in a dirty alley with nothing but a medical kit and determination. And in return, he saved me. From a life half lived, from playing it safe, from never knowing what it felt like to be truly, completely, dangerously loved. Our wedding was small, private, held in a garden outside the city with only the people who mattered most. My father walked me down the aisle with tears in his eyes. My study group sat in the front row, finally understanding that the mysterious man I had fallen for was real, was devoted, was worth everything I had risked. Daniel stood at the altar in a black suit, his green eyes never leaving mine as I approached. And when we said our vows, they were the same ones we had lived by since that first night. Trust, choice, love that defied logic. I continued my residency at the hospital. Long hours, impossible cases, the grinding exhaustion that came with saving lives. But now I came home to someone who understood sacrifice, who had his own battles to fight. His transition to legitimate business was nearly complete. Shipping companies, real estate, investments. All clean, all legal. The dangerous world he had lived in was fading into memory, replaced by something sustainable, something that allowed us both to sleep at night. We built a life that shouldn't have worked but somehow did. My medical career and his business empire. My need to save people and his need to protect me. My optimism and his cautious realism. We balanced each other, challenged each other, made each other better than we had been alone. Sometimes, late at night, when I returned from difficult shifts, I would find him waiting in the penthouse. He would hold me while I processed the cases I couldn't save, the patients who slipped away despite everything I tried. He understood loss in ways my colleagues never could. Understood that sometimes doing your best still wasn't enough. And sometimes, when his past came calling in the form of old associates or threats from rivals who didn't understand he had left that world, I would remind him why he had chosen this new path, would remind him that he was more than the violence of his history, that he had become something better. We were good for each other in ways neither of us had expected, in ways that made the impossible seem inevitable. 2 years after our wedding, I finished my residency, officially became an attending physician in emergency medicine. The specialty fit me perfectly. High-pressure situations, split-second decisions, the constant need to save lives hanging in the balance. Daniel joked that I had been training for it since the night I saved him in that alley. Maybe he was right. Maybe that night had shaped more than just our relationship. Maybe it had shown me what I was capable of when everything was on the line. We were happy. Truly happy in a way that felt stolen from fate. Because by all logic we shouldn't have worked. A doctor and a reformed criminal. A woman who saved lives and a man who had taken them. But love doesn't follow logic. It follows something deeper. Something that recognizes connection before the mind can rationalize it away. One evening, 3 years into our marriage, Daniel came home with news. His last connection to the old world had been severed. The final business sold. The final tie cut. He was completely legitimate now. Clean in every way that mattered. "How does it feel?" I asked, pulling him down beside me on the sofa. "Strange," he admitted. "I spent so long building that empire. And now it's gone. Replaced by something better?" I suggested. He looked at me, his green eyes soft. "Replaced by everything better. By you. By this life. By the person I became because you gave me a second chance." "You gave yourself that second chance," I said. "I just stopped the bleeding." "You did more than that," he said. His hand found mine, fingers lacing together. "You showed me there was another way to live. Another version of myself I could become. That's worth more than anything I left behind." We sat in comfortable silence, watching the city lights. The same lights I had seen the night I brought him to my tiny apartment, the night everything had changed. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked suddenly, "stopping in that alley? Saving me?" I turned to look at him fully. "Never," I said. "Not for a single moment. Even when things were scary?" "Especially then," I said. "Because that's when I learned what I was made of. What we were made of together." He kissed my forehead. "I'm the luckiest man alive." "Luck had nothing to do with it," I said. "You survived because you're stubborn. Because you refused to give up. And because a medical student happened to be in the right place at the right time." "The right medical student," he corrected. "The only one who would have stopped. Who would have risked everything for a stranger." I smiled. Maybe I was always meant to save you. Maybe this was always how our story was supposed to go. He pulled me closer. "Then I'm grateful for fate. For chance. For whatever brought you into that alley at exactly the right moment." "Me too," I said, "though I'm still amazed you trusted me. You were dying and you trusted a stranger with a medical kit and shaking hands." "I saw something in you," he said. "Even through the pain, even facing death, I saw your determination, your kindness, your strength. I knew if anyone could save me, it was you." "That trust changed both our lives," I said. "For the better," he agreed. "Definitely for the better." Years continued to pass. We settled into our life with the ease of two people who had fought for their happiness and won. I advanced in my career, eventually becoming head of emergency medicine. Daniel's businesses thrived, providing jobs and opportunities for people trying to leave dangerous lives behind. We used our resources to help others, funding scholarships for medical students, supporting programs for at-risk youth, trying to give back some of what we had been given, each other, second chances, the opportunity to become more than our circumstances. We never forgot where we started. The alley, the blood, the desperation and trust that had bound us together. Every year, on the anniversary of that night, we would return to that spot, stand in the place where our lives had intersected, where impossible decisions had led to unexpected love. It was our tradition, our reminder. And every year, Daniel would say the same thing. Thank you for stopping, for not walking past, for giving me a reason to survive. And every year I would respond the same way. Thank you for trusting me, for choosing to live, for building this life with me. Our story wasn't typical, wasn't the kind of romance found in movies or books. It was messy and complicated and born from violence and desperation, but it was real. More real than anything either of us had known before, because we had seen each other at our worst, at our most vulnerable, at our most honest. And we had chosen each other anyway, chosen love over logic, chosen risk over safety, chosen together over alone. Sometimes my colleagues would ask how we met. I would smile and give them the sanitized version. A chance encounter. The right place at the right time. A connection neither of us expected. They didn't need to know the whole truth. Didn't need to know about the blood and the danger and the 100 black SUVs that had appeared outside my apartment. Some stories were meant to be kept private, held close, treasured by the people who lived them. But I never lied to myself about what had happened, about what I had done and what it had cost. I had saved a criminal's life, had fallen in love with a dangerous man, had chosen a path that defied everything I thought I knew about myself, and I would do it all again. Every single moment, every risk, every fear, every impossible choice, because that night in the alley hadn't just saved Daniel's life. It had saved mine too, had pulled me out of a narrow existence and shown me what I was capable of, had taught me that sometimes the best thing you can do is stop when everyone else keeps walking, is help when logic says run, is trust when fear says hide. Daniel Cross had been dying in an alley, and I had been killing myself with expectations and caution and a carefully planned life that left no room for magic. We had saved each other. In the rain and blood of a dirty alley, in the sterile safety of a penthouse, in the quiet moments between then and now. We had saved each other and built something beautiful from the wreckage. And isn't that what love is? Two people who refuse to let each other give up, who fight for each other when the world says to walk away, who choose each other every single day, not because it's easy, but because it's right, because it's real, because it's worth everything. Standing on our balcony now, years after that fateful night, with Daniel's arms around me and the city spread below us like a promise, I thought about the medical student I had been, the one who took shortcuts through alleys to save time, the one who was so focused on the future she almost missed the present. That version of me would never believe where I ended up, who I married, the life I built. But that version of me had also been brave enough to stop, to help, to risk everything for a stranger's life. And that bravery had led to this. To love, to happiness, to a partnership that defied every odd. Maybe that's the real lesson of our story. That bravery doesn't always look like grand gestures or obvious heroism. Sometimes it looks like stopping when you're tired, helping when it's inconvenient, trusting when you have every reason not to. And maybe, if you're very lucky, that bravery leads you to someone who sees you, really sees you, all your flaws and fears and dreams. Someone who loves you not despite those things, but because of them. Someone who makes you braver than you ever thought you could be. Daniel turned me in his arms, his green eyes holding mine with the same intensity they had in that alley. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "Us," I said. "How impossible this all is. How perfect." He smiled. "That's the beauty of it. We were never supposed to make sense. We were just supposed to happen. And I'm grateful every day that we did, I said. That I stopped in that alley. That you trusted me. That we both were brave enough to choose this. Me too, he said. His forehead rested against mine, every single day. And as we stood there, two people who had found each other in the most unlikely way, who had built a life from nothing but determination and trust and stubborn love, I realized something. The best stories aren't the ones that make sense from the beginning. They're the ones that start with a choice that seems crazy, a decision that defies logic, a moment when you could walk away, but something makes you stay. Those are the stories worth living, worth fighting for, worth everything. I had been a medical student taking a shortcut through an alley. He had been a dying man who trusted a stranger, and together, we had become something neither of us expected. Something better than we had been alone. Something that proved love doesn't follow rules or timelines or reasonable expectations. It just finds you when you're brave enough to let it. When you're willing to risk everything for a chance at something real. Our story started with blood and rain and desperate trust. It continued with danger and passion and the slow building of something solid. And it would end, someday far in the future, with two people who had lived fully, who had loved completely, who had proven that sometimes the most logical thing you can do is follow your heart into the impossible. Because that's where magic lives, in the space between logic and love, between caution and courage, between the life you planned and the life you're meant to live. I saved Daniel Cross in a dirty alley with nothing but determination and medical training. And in every way that matters, he saved me right back. From a life of careful planning that left no room for spontaneity. From a future that was secure but uninspired. From never knowing what it felt like to be completely, irrevocably, impossibly loved. We were an unlikely pair, a doctor and a reformed criminal, a woman who healed and a man who had hurt. But we worked. Against all odds and logic and reasonable expectations, we worked. And that, more than anything, was the miracle. Not that I saved his life in an alley, but that we saved each other every day after. In small ways and large ones. In gestures and words and choices. In the decision to stay when leaving would be easier. In the commitment to love when fear would be safer. That's what I would tell someone if they asked the secret to our happiness. There is no secret. Just two people who chose each other. Who keep choosing each other. Through danger and peace. Through fear and joy. Through every moment that tests whether love is real or just a beautiful lie we tell ourselves. Our love was real. Hard-earned and battle-tested and forged in circumstances that should have destroyed it. But we were both fighters, both survivors, both stubborn enough to believe that what we had was worth protecting, worth everything. So yes, I stopped in an alley to save a dying man. And yes, 100 black SUVs showed up at my door the next day. And yes, I fell in love with someone I should have feared. But those facts, stark as they are, don't tell the real story. The real story is about two people who saw each other at their most vulnerable and chose trust over terror. About two people who built something beautiful from broken pieces. About two people who proved that love, real love, doesn't ask permission or wait for the right time or follow sensible rules. It just happens. And if you're brave enough to let it, it changes everything. That's our story. Unlikely. Impossible. Perfect. And I wouldn't change a single moment of it.